you to our sponsors, K. Flynn Insurance, Elect Bruce Becker for the Lincoln County Fire Board, and the Crafty Midwestern Mommy for their continued support of the Lincoln County Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to the Lincoln County Podcast. We are back with another episode, and I've got a great guest today. Super excited to sit down and chat about what he does, what his business offers, and what we can do for Lincoln County. So if you guys go on, like, subscribe, share the podcast, we really appreciate it. And we'll get started today by letting my guest introduce himself, and we'll get going. How's it going?
Hey, it's good, Matt. Good to be here. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm Ron LaBeau with Show Me Custom Gifts. We're a commercial laser engraving business in Ellsbury, Missouri, and we help businesses grow their business with products that share their logo on them.
What do you think is what's probably your most popular product?
Yeah, hands down. Anybody that knows me in networking knows that the answer is tumblers.
Tumblers.
I do a lot of tumblers, and really they're a good deal because I call them mobile billboards, because wherever I put your logo, your website, your phone number on a tumbler, and you set it down, it's advertising for you for free. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
See, I think sometimes people forget that part of it too. Is the whole purpose of that stuff though is to get it out there. I watch people that'll get things. We'll even do it. We'll order something, some generic giveaway thing or whatever, and people will be like, "Well, here, just take two." Man, I'll put stuff out on a table. Take whatever you want. I remember someone one time had something about pens, and it was this pen. I think they put on their pens, this pen was stolen from.
Yeah,
that was like a thing at one point. And I thought that was genius, that people, you want people to see those products.
Absolutely. And the whole thing is, I've had customers say, well, I'll be selective on who I give this to. My answer to that is, whether you buy from me or anybody else, the answer is give it to everybody.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I do a lot of like service professionals, heating and cooling, plumbers, roofers are big customers for me. And what I tell them is, give him and her one. Right? Because he's going to Chesterfield to work, she's going to St. Charles, and they're setting their tumblers down separate places. So whether it's tumblers or anything else from me or anybody else, get your name out there, and that's one way to do it.
Yeah, and I think people forget that. We had a ton of, last year I changed some colors on stuff at the school. Changed it up from my blue and my red and my American flag stuff that I love, and I was like, we're going to do something different. I was listening to a lot of Tim Grover's books on Kobe Bryant, and kind of went Kobe with the colors, the purple and the gold, the Lakers, and it also fits the Troy colors.
Yeah.
They bombed. People didn't like them. People, a couple people bought them, but so at the parade last year, we gave out about $10,000 worth of inventory. But like, someone's like, well, I just can't believe you're going to give that out. I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? Throw it away or give it out so people can wear it? I don't care if they, and that was in July at Night of 1,000 Stars. I seen 7 people that did not go to my school, 7 youth wearing my hoodies.
Nice.
And I was, the people at my booth with me are like, oh, I was like, someone's going to wear it. They're going to donate it. They're going to give it to someone, whatever they're going to do with it. The logo's out there.
Absolutely.
And that's what's great about what you do with the products is it gives people different options for stuff. Like you're making cutting boards for us.
Yeah.
I loved that idea. It gives them something. It's in their house. It's a constant reminder of we painted for them. That's part of our due process is, what did we do for them? Well, after we painted, we did that. And I was also at the time, I was sending like thank you videos, but it was just a constant reminder of what we did and what the other guy did.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and I get all the time people say, oh, well, we give cookies. We give cookies to our customers. We send them 2 weeks later. I'm like, that's awesome. But what do you do when the cookies are gone? Yeah. Right? So like in your example, they're showing that cutting board wherever they go. I mean, they prop it up on their countertop or whatever. They're proud of it. It's something you gave them.
And it's personalized.
And they'll never forget where they got it, right? So when somebody comes in the house and says, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Where'd you get that? It's Boyer Painting. And it's just an extension of what your business does for your customers.
And it's you guys are so versatile with the products and like the tumblers, like you said, everywhere you go, somebody has one of those. Everybody wants a cup of water. We get 3 or 4 of them left at the Taekwondo school a week. People leave them in the cubbies. We've got like a spot for them. That's, I would say, our number one most left thing. People forget their water bottle, their tumblers and stuff. That is such a big market right now. Why not have them with your logo and your name on it? And why not leave them places or take them places?
Right.
And there's probably a million different things that are out there, but it's a great way to get the business out.
Yeah.
And just to get the name in general.
Exactly. And so, what I say to people, some people say, oh, well, we've got 4 or 5 tumblers already. I'm like, hey, look, I'm not saying you're going to take the Boyer Painting tumbler every day, but on the day you take that tumbler, wherever you set it down, Boyer Painting is getting exposure.
Well, and the ones you made us, we gave those out to the employees at Christmas. I still got guys that carry them.
Yeah.
Still do. And they're carrying those to job sites. It looks more professional. They're carrying them to the gym. They're carrying them places people see it. And it's another with marketing. One of the 10X expos I went to at Grant Cardone, he talked about omnipresence.
Yes.
You can't just do one line of something. You need other things like I have a billboard. People see that. Mainly the kids see it. The kids always notice it before the parents, but then maybe they hear it. Maybe then they click on social media, they see it. Then maybe they're at the gym and their friends got a cup, a tumbler or something. Like that stuff adds up. And I know the science used to be like 5 points of contact with marketing. I don't know what it is anymore. I really don't follow up on it.
Yeah.
But that layering effect is so important with a client that has a product they want to get out there.
Absolutely. And like with your logo, for example, for your painting and your Taekwondo school, I see your billboards, I see your advertising, I see your Facebook stuff. And let's just say going down the road, all of a sudden I need a painting company. I've seen your red trucks driving down the road. I've seen all the things. I'm like, all of a sudden, Boyer pops in my head. It's subconscious.
Yes.
So your advertising, what you've done for your marketing, puts it in front of people automatically, like even without them even thinking much about it.
Post-COVID, the school just exploded with new customers. I had a bunch of people reach out to me, hey, what's going on in Lincoln County? And I said, it's not what's going on now. It's the fact that since I moved the school out here, which is 10 years now, I've been doing stuff and having our name out there. So once everything was over and people said, oh, let's go do something, boom, we popped in their head. Or the vans, people see, I get calls all the time. People are like, hey, saw you guys were in West County today. We weren't in West County. It was a red van and people thought it was us.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Ashley and Patrick at Epic and I have talked about it, how people, they'll see your vehicle, their brand, they do it to them too. And they'll see like red vans. They'll think I have 20, 30 red vans. At one point, Casey had a truck, I had a truck, and we had one work van. And people swore we had a fleet of 30.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we didn't, but it's because they get to recognizing the logo. So then when you're on a tumbler or you're on different products, cutting boards, whatever it is, it's just more of seeing that logo. And it gets just kind of beat into your head.
It does.
Of that's the first thing you think of. I still to this day, if someone asks me about flooring, like carpet, I'm thinking about Becky flying around St. Louis on the TV commercials from when I was a kid. Those are the most annoying commercials ever, but I don't think anyone in St. Louis cannot tell you about that grew up here at least, about that. Or if someone talks about appliances, I'll tell them, you know what was
Slyman Brothers.
Well, there's Slyman Brothers, and then was it Gettiker's? They're open every day but Sunday.
That's right.
That's the thing with marketing people don't get is some of that stuff is corny, but it works.
It is. And, when we were growing up and we were watching the Slyman Brothers doing their crazy little commercials, we thought, you guys are crazy, but it put it in the back of people's head.
Yeah.
We're talking about that right now, 20 years later.
Easily 20 years.
20 years later because of the great marketing they did back then.
And one of the things that kind of made that stuff stick for me, what was it? Arby's, we got the meats.
Yeah.
My kids we would say something about going somewhere to eat, and they'd be like, Arby's, and they would finish slogans in the back seat, joking around with each other. There was another one too, but I started paying attention to it more when I realized they don't sit in front of a TV all day. We're not listening to the radio all the time. Right. They have very limited access to that, and they pick up on it all the time. It catches. Our intro for this podcast, for example, sticks with you. It kind of hangs in your head a little bit after you do it. And I was really excited by that because that's what it should do.
Right.
People don't look at that aspect of it when they're looking at marketing. They're like, well, we'll get some tumblers as a gift, or we'll, like you said, a select customer.
Yeah.
That was something when we first ordered stuff from you, the girls in the office were like, well, let's only give these to people that spent this much. I'm like, no, give everybody one.
100%.
They're like, why? I'm like, because let them all have it. It doesn't matter the expense versus what they spent. Everybody's spending more than that with us. So what's it matter? It's in everybody's house. Don't just give this to that person. So we did rubber bracelets.
Oh yeah.
Those turned in. So at the first fair, like 2 years ago, teens kept coming by the booth. Hey man, you got a blue one? Hey man, you got a red one? Hey, you got this? And they just kept coming. Finally, I stopped them. I'm like, hey, what are you guys doing? Like, I thought they were pranking me.
Yeah.
Someone had told me, no, it's a drinking contest. People, whoever doesn't get the most bracelets has to drink. I'm like, man, these kids are like 14.
Yeah.
I was like, and that was honestly my concern is I was like, you guys aren't doing something stupid like that because I don't want to be a part of it.
Right.
And they were like, no, we collect these. I'm like, you guys collect my bracelets. Oh, yeah. Yeah, seriously. And the one kid pulled his arm up and he had me, goes, I got the ones from last year too.
Yeah.
I was like, you're kidding me. I was like, you know what? And I had one down there. I was like, you're missing this one. He's like, oh, I never got the thick blue one.
Wow.
Gave it to him. Had no clue. Had absolutely no clue that was going to take off. I just didn't want to keep ordering the same color. I was like, we'll just kind of switch it up. Became something they collected. These kids are running all over town. My stepson was getting hit up at high school. Hey man, can you talk to your stepdad? I don't have one of those blue and white ones.
Yeah.
Or can I get a hoodie? The teens wanted painting hoodies. All the time are hitting me up for painting hoodies. I'm like, man, I just buy these for the employees.
Right.
I was like, crap, that's an amazing, when you look at, it may get you a $5,000 repaint customer off a $25, $30 hoodie. Well, why not? Or a tumbler may get you a large client. Why wouldn't you do that?
So, when we talk about customer acquisition cost, right? I mean, you have to look at what it costs to get a new customer, right?
Oh, yeah.
You talk about the hoodie, right? If you buy them in bulk and you put your name on them, it's a lot cheaper than advertising any other place.
Hands down.
So you're giving these hoodies away. The person who gets it loves it and wears it, and they're advertising for you everywhere they go, right?
Yeah.
And it's the cost of acquisition. If you get one sale out of that,
pays for all of them.
Bingo.
Well, and that's the thing with the painting company. If my average paint job, say if I average them all out for the year, probably $6,000 is the average size of a job. Say it costs me $3,000 to order a batch of hoodies. One pays double for everything. That's one of the big things we do is if there's any local programs that have t-shirts and they're like, hey, we're doing a 5K, we'll put you on the t-shirt. Sure. Where do I sign? Because those shirts are all over town. And specifically in Lincoln County, we're in an area that they wear them.
Right.
They wear that stuff. Everybody does it. I wear it. I've got my fight shirts. I've got other t-shirts. I got 5K t-shirts from the veterans run 5Ks that David Norman hosts. Like, that stuff's everywhere and your stuff is seen. So if people can get a product from someone like yourself and get it seen, then you go back to that acquisition. But so many people don't understand that. I was explaining to my employees the other day, the acquisition cost to hire someone.
Yeah.
By the time I post on Indeed, bring them in, set them up with all their stuff. Because the guys that, on like day 2, they're like, I guess fire this chump, the foremen are. And I'm like, well, I'm $350 in so far. So let's give him a little bit. I tried to give everyone 2 weeks to kind of, especially if they've worked for a company who's structured differently, or I've had a lot of guys come to me that were kind of doing their own thing, trying to be self-employed. I give them 2 weeks to kind of acclimate to what we do because of the cost to acquire them and to hire them and to pay for the Indeed ad, to set them up in their hoodie, their hat, their work shirts. Maybe I got to give them a couple paintbrushes. I have to at least give it 2 weeks because that stuff all figures out. But I find a lot of people, they only look at the cost of a product. They don't break it down into, but if I take that, what's an average tumbler cost?
$25.
Say a $25 tumbler, but that gets me a $350 client. Well, that's a win.
Or
for me, a $5,000, $6,000 client.
That's what I'm saying. So people tell me, my customers tell me, look, I just built it into the cost of the painting or the installation of a heating and cooling company. So I tell them all the time, you're not going to lose the sale if you add $25 to the cost. No. The customers are getting a customer appreciation gift. They appreciate that. So for a roofer, for example, they show up on time, they do a nice job on the roof, the price was right and they cleaned up. And then you're going to hand me a tumbler. Of course, I'm going to go out and brag about you. Who did your roof? Oh my gosh, it was,
and exactly that. They're going to look at it.
Take a picture of this and call them. It's quite simple, to be honest with you. I don't have any problem selling tumblers for that reason because it really is an extension of the company.
No, and for sure. But what's wild is how people don't, like you said, they just added into the cost. Okay, $25. We started doing a lot of credit card processing. It was, this one's gonna be this percent. I was like, I don't care which one. Just tell me what the percent is, and I'll bump my bid up. If it's a $20,000 bid and I'm going to pay 2%, then I bump it 2% when I write the bid. It's just simple. You just figure it in. It's some people tend to look at, it's going to cost me $300 to order this product to give out. Yeah, but what if you get one job?
Yeah.
And I've always had that mindset, so I've never kind of frayed away from that stuff. I always tried to have gear, different things with whatever business, have stuff to promote. Like if I go to Pike Lincoln Tech and I set up a table and I talk about jobs, I'm not really going to hire anyone out there because most of them are going to school for other trades.
Right.
But I take a whole table full of t-shirts, and we did what businesses in Lincoln County, and they have a little cartoon map on the back.
Mm-hmm.
I ordered bright pink. I had Emily was running the desk at the time. I'm like, you pick the color. I'm busy tonight. She picked all bright pink. They were fighting over them. They came back in. They're like, come on, man, please tell me you got our pink one. And this was the diesel mechanic kids or the framer kids. They were wanting the shirts, and I see them wear them all the time. I run into them. I'll have them approach me places, be like, what's up, man? They'll like show me they got my hoodie on. That's priceless advertisement.
100%.
And people don't think about that. People, well, I'm going to run this Facebook ad and I got to get this off it. Our mutual friend Lucas at Mango, we talked, he would run ads for me and he'd call me and he's like, bro, it's 11 o'clock at night. You're responding to him. I'm like, yeah, I'm paying you damn good money to run these ads. He goes, you don't understand how many clients will be like, yeah, it's just not working out. And he goes, I'll tell him, you got 25 messages in your inbox.
That's right.
Respond to them. They'll spend the money. They'll be like, yeah, I just don't think this is working out right now. And it's like, yeah, but you haven't followed up, or he would have automation set to follow up with them automatically, which I actually had him take them off mine. I at the time they sounded very robotic to me. I didn't. Yeah. The painting company, it was weird. The painting company, they worked like, okay, what is the job size? Blah, blah, blah. Where are you located? Like try to weed them out, because if they were in, we had a couple contractors we worked with that started doing stuff in Illinois and they give our number out. Well, yep. I just couldn't, the value to go to Illinois wasn't there.
Yep.
So it weeds some of that out. Those actually work. Now for the academy, the very first automated one went back that shut the conversation down. People would not respond back, which was wild. Him and I were blown away with it. So we took the automations off that one and I did it. But like people buy stuff like your tumbler, but then they don't give them out.
Yeah.
I'll find people have tons of, I'll go in businesses that have giveaway stuff and they'll just have piles of it. It's like, do you go throw this crap out in the streets?
You know, I got it set up on my calendar to call you 3 months after I've sold you a case of tumblers. That's 24 tumblers. In 3 months, you should have either called me before to reorder, or, you know, because a lot of these people are saying, well, I paid good money for these things. I'm being selective on who. Look, I'm telling you what, guys.
Give them to everybody.
$25 a piece. You give them to everybody and just love it, because once you give them to that customer, it's free advertising. You got 24 people going around any given day advertising for you. Yes. I mean, it should be a no-brainer in my opinion.
No, I completely agree with that. And I find that, and I get it when it's a budgetary thing. Like if someone's new and they can only afford this many, but you got to give them out.
Yeah.
The whole, well, maybe we're not going to give these out. Like the kids will come up to me at the booths. I do different places. Hey man, can we, yeah, sure. Here you go. And they'll be like, well, you know, the only thing I'll do is like last year at the fair, we had done the parade, we did the fair. I was kind of running low. So the last day I was like being a little more selective on making sure it really fit them. Like in the first couple days, people were like, oh, we don't have your size. Like, well, I got a large, but like, sure. And it's like, you're not really going to wear that. At the end, I was being a little more selective because I just didn't want to be sitting there on the last day without anything to hand out. I didn't want to be Saturday night empty handed on a busy night. But you got to give that stuff out. And that's something I do with teaching people to help build their business. You got to tell everyone what you do too.
Yeah.
I've met people and known them for months on end and then find out they have a side business or they have this business and this, but they never told me.
Mm.
And I kind of chuckle because I try not to be obnoxious about it. But normally I have a logo somewhere that it kind of tells it.
Yep.
But I also make sure to bring it up in conversation. It very naturally in a way that is comfortable. It's not salesy. I've had some friends over the years that would just do it really awkward.
Yeah.
Like they had Tourette's or something. They just blurt it out. And it's like, okay, that just got weird for everyone. Whereas I would work it into a conversation in a way that worked.
Yeah.
Same thing with the tumbler. Hand them to people, give them out. Someone walks up and asks you about your business, be like, oh, hey, you know what? Here, I'll be right back. Go get them one.
Yeah.
Might be a perfect stranger, but they're going to be like, hell, you got any painter? This guy gave me this free cup.
That's right.
I've had people do that. It got to a point with real estate agents. We worked for so many of them then I'd have people call me like, oh, I just got off the phone with Joe and they love you. They said you're the greatest painter they've ever used. Call Casey up, like, hey, search the software. We were painted, and I give them the name. She'd be like, no. I Google them. Well, they worked in an office that was adjoined to an office of someone else I worked for. But because they all wanted to list trades on their website, they'd all list me. I got to where I would just be like, oh, Joe, great people. Can't tell you what we painted for them, but they're good company. So what can I do for you? Wouldn't lie to them, but would just work my way. If you sit there and be like, I don't know who they are, you just make the whole conversation awkward.
Right. Yeah.
But we were listed everywhere. To where I even quit telling people, I used to tell them I paint for 105 realtors. I stopped telling people that because I was like, I really don't even know how many websites I'm on at this point.
Yeah.
Because I would have people call me. I would then call the agent to be like, hey, talk to Sally, Joey, whoever. What are you looking to do with this house? Because sometimes people call me and they're emotionally attached. They'll be like, I want to paint the house this. I want to do that. I want to do that their realtor may not want.
Yep.
So I always try to touch base with them, let them know, hey, we did a house for the Troy School District Tech House, and they wanted us to do some accent colors, but it was going on the market like the next day. And I was going to have to come back and do the accent colors because it didn't work out. What originally the plan was I was going to go in with the decorating class and help them do the accents, and that fell through.
Yeah.
So I called the realtor. I'm like, hey, they're wanting accent walls. This isn't a very big house. Do you even want me to mess with it? And she texted me the next morning. Because I knew she'd be showing it before I put them in there.
Oh, yeah.
She goes, man, I think I got the house sold. Don't even bother. I was like, cool. I didn't want to put you in a position to where you show the house and it's all white. You come in tomorrow and it's got color in it.
Yeah.
That could kill a deal and create me a mortal enemy with an agent, lose a sale on them. But because of that, now we have that communication there. So I've had that before where I've reached out and they're like, who is this? I'm like, you got me listed. Oh, you painted for Sally so-and-so. You spoke or at one of our events. Cool, great.
Yep.
But that marketing, people don't wrap their head around that.
Yeah. And one of the things I found is real estate agents are typically busy people.
Yeah.
They stay busy, and the hungry ones really stay busy, right? So what we've done for them is we created a Google Sheet, right, for you personally, if you're a real estate agent. It's got, the closing date, the name they want on the cutting board, and the established date, right?
Yeah.
That's 3 things. They go in there and they edit that Google Sheet. They step off. When they step off, I get notified by email that they do it. I text them. I said, got it. And I go and create their cutting boards because they don't want to be bothered.
Have time.
They don't want to be bothered, but they don't want to show up at closing without a gift either.
Yes.
So I take care of that for them. And that's kind of a way that we have kind of streamlined things for real estate agents. We do it somewhat for roofers too, but roofers normally, they just buy cases at a time of the tumblers,
Yeah, no. And that's something that I would do when I was pitching to like real estate agents. They'd call me. They're like, I got this client. They're trying to watch your budget. They got this, they got that. I'd be like, you know what? It's cool. Give me your name and number. I'll let you know when the house is going to be painted. I was like, one of the benefits of using my company is you get me to deal with that customer for you and walk them through. And when they say, you know what, we don't want to paint the ceilings, I can look at it and be like, your agent is going to want these ceilings painted because they're going to look really rough once we paint the walls. Call them and double check if it's worth the return on your investment. If it's worth paying me, say $2,000 paint all the ceilings, but it's going to help you sell faster, it might be something you want to do.
Right.
And that was my big in with all the realtors is let me just take this over for you. I'll handle this part. You don't need to pick their color. You don't need to handhold them on all this. You're busy doing our things. And the successful ones would be like, air high five over the phone. They'd be like, dude, you said what I need to hear. Here's the 3 names of the houses I need painted. I'll talk to you at closing.
Yeah.
And I'd take care of it, get it painted. I'd get a text from the agent. Love you. Thank you. And that was how we did it. Because you're like with your product, you're taking that off their plate.
Absolutely.
They don't have to worry about it now. And I don't think people understand that in the beginning with business, that you get to a level where you're busy enough that, man, that means the world. If this is here and there, I looked at a product the other day where they'll pre-make you boxes of random swag items and you could just go on, click and ship it out. I was like, well, that's really cool. Now, could I break that down and do it myself? Yeah, but there's a headache there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things like that you can do. And nothing as I got to a different level with the businesses would piss me off more than go to someone to hire them and them create more work for me.
Right. Right.
And that's what you're doing the opposite of that. They've got a spreadsheet, they fill it out, boom, they've got it, it's in hand, here you go.
Yeah.
They don't have to think about it because you know what? They got a million other things to think about.
Yeah, before that Google sheet, I'd get phone calls like 2 days before the closing. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about the closing. Is there any possible way you can do it? So if I'm being selfish here, I'm doing it for them and for me.
Oh yeah.
Because honestly, and to be honest with you, I tell them, I said, whatever name you put on this thing, I'm copying and pasting it into my software. So if you misspell Smith, it's on you, not
it's
me.
on you. Yeah.
You know, I mean, it just works out really well because it's kind of, if you don't have processes in place, that's one thing I've learned about my business.
Yeah.
If you don't have processes in place on systems, you know, you're going to be paddling uphill, upstream all the time.
Oh, for sure. And that's one of my big regrets with the painting company. Not so much the Taekwondo school. I still got time there, but with the painting company, I wish as I put together processes, I would have listed them out and made sheets and made handbooks and made things as we grew. Instead, we grew so fast and I created and came up with things so fast that I don't have it wrote down anywhere. Yeah. I couldn't, if something happened tomorrow, Casey couldn't take a manual and hand it to someone that could paint and say, here, you're running it, I'm going to pay you X, and then because she doesn't paint. So that's something that is, I'll probably have to hire someone to do it to where we'll have to meet once a week, dictate everything for them, and they create it in the end because I don't have the time anymore.
Right.
But it's one of my biggest regrets. It's something that as Ben and Jocelyn get older, I want to do with them at the Taekwondo school. So if right now, they want to have their own schools, cool. We'll have everything on paper to where we can very easily open other locations. And it's
absolutely
building to sell, whatever you want to call it. It's one of my biggest regrets.
Yeah. And so that was some good advice that I got early on when I started this business almost 3 years ago, is someone said, write down your processes. So when you get to a point, I don't have any employees yet, but when you get to a point where you have employees, you can pretty much just hand them a couple sheets and they can do what you need to do. Maybe you have questions along the way, obviously, and have them rewrite that when they get good at the skill, have them rewrite it their own way, because the way they do it might be a little bit different than the way I did it.
Yes.
But it's still productive.
See, I need that for all the vans because I'll train a new foreman that knows how to do. They know how to use a sprayer. They know how to caulk and putty, but maybe they've never done a new build construction trim pack. If I had everything listed out, because I'll tell them in the morning.
Yeah.
But then we have extra communication during the day. Whereas if I had that laminated in the truck, they could walk out and look at it. Andy Frischella tells us in Arte that you should be able to you should have everything wrote down in such a simple plan that you could hand it to a complete stranger and they could run everything that day.
Yeah. Maybe
not perfect, but they could do it with very minimal questions. And it's one of my biggest regrets. So it's great that you've got those in place, because that's advice I wish I would have gotten 15 years ago, because over the years I could have been updating and editing and doing a lot with it. After we started doing around the time we started doing the cutting boards with you, I read the book, The Art of Gift Giving. Absolutely amazing book on how to give gifts and how to use that for your business. I believe the guy has like a huge company that handles that stuff for like Google, handling it for like huge, but the art of it and the psychology behind it and everything, it was amazing. It was a really, that and Unbelievable Hospitality are both, that's about just customer service, are two books that just knock your socks off. But the gift giving part is great. So Casey and I don't drink. So anytime I go to anything, I always give a book.
Yeah.
I take some type of business book. I'm constantly, and about a year ago, I kept ordering books. Casey's like, what the hell are you doing with all these books? Because I listen to them on audio. I very rarely sit down and read them. I try. I don't care how good the book is. It puts me to sleep. The only one that didn't put me to sleep, it was a nonfiction book. They made it into a Netflix series about serial killers. It was the gentleman that started the psychological investigation parts, wherever. I'm butchering it all up, but that book was crazy. That book, that you get tied into that and couldn't sleep, you couldn't put it down.
Yeah.
But the business stuff, no matter how much I like them, I still like my eyes get tired.
I know, me too.
But
and so I don't know about you. When I read and I'm sitting there going, okay, and then I got to do this, and then all of a sudden I got to read it again. Because my mind is like a million places.
Well, mine too. That's why I do audio, and because I find if I listen to it and I try to read it at the same time, I retain it better.
Yeah.
And Patrick David Bett, there's a bunch of Bett David. Man, I messed that dude's name up. all the time. And he's like my favorite author, podcaster, everything. He even suggests that to people. Do your worksheet, read the book, listen to it, because your brain catches things differently when you do it. And I try to do that. But over a year ago, I told Casey, I said, I want to be the book guy. She goes, what do you mean? I said, when we go, so I want to give a person a gift. If I've had a lunch meeting with someone, I want to give them a book. I said, I want to try to get in the habit of doing this. So at Christmas, all my instructors got a book.
Oh, wow.
Kind of angled towards them. One of them got How to Win Friends and Influence People. Somebody else got Relentless by Tim Grover. I gave a couple people The Power of One by Ed Milet. One of my instructors really isn't into the self-help or the growth genre. I noticed she was reading Art of War by Sun Tzu, so I hopped on Amazon and ordered her The Book of Five Rings by Musashi. It's another Art of War type book.
Right.
And got it for her. I wanted to be that guy. Now I got all these books. I get people messaging me and calling me all the time going, hey man, what's a good book? I need a book. Oh, hey, get this one. This dude put a list of his favorites in the back. That's where I started. But I constantly do that as a gift to give because it makes such a difference. So then my thought behind that is, what can I do for the clients? Well, the cutting board was a great one for us because we're painting a house. 90% of them are new homeowners, or this is a new home to them. Like I said, I paint for a lot of agents.
Yeah.
Or they're remodeling or fixing up. So we're in the home where I get a feel for it. So then we can pick the font or the color, or the different things that we did.
Sure.
It was a great fit for us because it was just personal enough, but not too personal to where you could just really miss.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a tumbler, a cutting board are great ideas. Whereas like with the books, it has to be someone I know.
Right.
You know, one of my goals this podcast is to have some type of a gift to present any guest that comes on. I want it to be some type of book, but there's such a wide variety out there. I haven't quite figured it out. And for 2026, I want to write my own. So that'll be the goal.
Oh, your own book.
I want to do my own book. That's on my goal list of down the road. I gotta do the speaking, the code. I gotta build all this other stuff up first. But I do want to write one day.
There you go.
I'm Julie Forster with Crafty Midwestern Mommy, your local boutique embroidery and fabric store. I sell fabric as well as sewing notions and also teach classes. And then we also, on the other side of our business, do machine embroidery, custom apparel for local businesses, and just personalized gifts. Again, the store's name is Crafty Midwestern Mommy, and that's how you can find us on all social media platforms as well as our website.
I've talked to several very accomplished writers that have terrible grammar and spelling, so they hire a ghostwriter.
Yeah.
They work with a ghostwriter, they dictate, they write the book. I was like, sign me up.
Piece of cake.
At some point when that's on my list. But people forget about that. What made you decide to get into this?
That's a great question. So I was in the corporate world. I right out of high school, I ran a printing press for 14 years.
Okay.
I hit my ceiling with salary. I mean, I knew it. I'm like, okay, they're not going to pay anymore, and my raises are peanuts, you know. So I wanted to do something else. So I got in the corporate world, did that for about 23 years, and all the while, I always say I sat in someone else's cubicle making their dreams come true.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the corporate world is great for some people. Some people love the security of the 2-week check, the vacations, the sick time, and all those things. And I did, you know, I did well with that, right? Except for I just always wanted to do something different, right? So for 23 years, and then after 23 years, they let a bunch of us, about 18 of us go that had 20 plus years experience, sent me to India to train 9 people to do my job before they let me go.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they paid me well to do it because I
Yeah.
told them, I said, I've already got a severance package. I'm not going, you know, period. My son was 1.5 years old. I'm not going to a third world country and doing that. But anyhow, I did, and came back, took a couple sales positions, and Matt, I just never, ever felt in my space. Like I never did, you know, like I did well with those jobs, but in 2020, right before COVID, everybody says it's right before COVID, you know, I talked to my wife, Julie. I said, look, I want to do something on my own, man. If you never do, you never know. Right. Yeah. So I said, so I've always messed with woodworking, and I've always played with Photoshop. I don't call myself a woodworker because if you do woodworking, you're better than me, I'm sure. And if you do Photoshop, I guarantee you, you're better than me. But laser engraving kind of fell right in the middle. And I said, I don't want to buy a hobby laser engraver. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to go all in. Would you be interested in investing in a commercial laser engraver? She said, you know how to run one? Never turned one on, you know? And she's like, let's do it. So we did. I mean, I bought this thing. I wasted probably 78, 80, 95 cups because I never knew how to do it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But now I got it down, and and with her patience, man, I tell you what, you have to have a strong spouse, to
Yes.
because we went from a check every 2 weeks to, oh my gosh, where's the next money coming in? And it's a scary thing, as you know. I mean, it is. It's I've got a wife and 3 kids at home, and it's just it is scary. So she supported me all the while, and we're coming up on our 3rd year. April will be our 3rd year, and things are getting better. Like all of a sudden, things are starting to, like, I'm starting getting calls to me, like the referrals are coming to me, and it's starting to feel that way. Everybody told me that it's going to happen, and I'm not saying it's a rush. I'm not getting phone calls all the time, but I mean, it's starting to happen. And I start to feel it, so we're going to hang in there.
Well, no, and that's just how it is. But the uncertainty of it, that's what scares a lot of people from going into being an entrepreneur. I've gotten to a point with the success I've had that people approach me with ideas. I had a lady a little while back. She goes, you have these businesses. She goes, I've seen you and your wife around. I was bidding a house for painting. And she goes, I just need to get off the ground. And she laid everything out for me. And I looked at her and smiled. She goes, oh, I know what you're going to say. I was like, you just need to do it.
Yeah.
You literally have got everything covered. Like she had every aspect of it covered other than conquering the fear.
Yeah.
Of doing it, of making that step. And that's, I guess my whole life, like that fear wasn't, I don't know why. I guess so my dad worked at General Motors his whole life. My grandfather hired in, I guess my grandfather hired in at General Motors in 1945. They moved to St. Louis from, and I'm not positive where, my grandfather adopted my dad and they moved to St. Louis. 1945, built a house in Breckenridge Hills. My grandfather worked at General Motors his whole life and retired. In 1960, my dad hired in. He was going to quit. He wanted to play baseball. My grandfather wouldn't let him play baseball. He had got invited to a St. Louis Browns training camp thing to where you could get scouted, I guess.
Yeah.
And my grandfather wouldn't let him do it. Said, you need a good job, the retirement, that generation. So my dad went to work at GM. He retired there with 48 years. Brother hired in 1982 when he was 18. He worked there till the 2000s. My dad hated his job, but in the 80s, he made over $100,000 a year. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. I had a great childhood. So he went to work every day and did it. And he always used to tell me, find what you love to do and just work for yourself. Don't have a boss. Don't have anyone to deal with. Answer to yourself. And I guess that just beat into my head.
Yeah.
To where I wasn't afraid to do it. My first hustle was we'd go went to a flea market, buy lawnmowers or bicycles, and I would repaint them. You could go to Western Auto in O'Fallon, and you could buy new GT Performer stickers. So I'd buy an old tore up GT Performer, paint it, slap new stickers, sell it to a neighbor.
Yeah.
Always doing something like that. So I was lucky that I didn't have that fear, but I find a lot of people are crippled by it. They're just afraid to do it.
Yeah. And the other thing about it is, a lot of people feel like in order to start the business, they have to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect.
Yes.
So, I told you off air that, I had the #1 podcast show for eBay sellers in the world, right?
That's awesome.
Before we started that podcast, we waited 3 months. We were like, okay, we're not perfect yet. So finally we just said, you know what? Let's get the first 10 out of the way. We're going to hate them. We're going to laugh. When we're on episode 100, we're going to laugh at those 10. And it really took us to do that. The first 10, we balked. We did everything wrong, but they got us off the ground. They got us to our 11th. Once we got to 11, it just started being smooth. But you have to get off the ground. You forget being perfect. Just do it, right? Because you really have to get started somewhere.
No, and I agree. And I think right now with social media, everything everybody does is seen. Everybody's got something negative to say. But I'll be honest, I have gotten maybe one negative remark. If we take YouTube out, Jesus, everybody on YouTube, we post anything on YouTube, everybody's got something to say. But personally in life, one negative to 100 positives. I think sometimes people are afraid of that.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect till you get the practice in.
100%.
With everything I've been doing, I've been trying to lay this out and lay this out and lay this out and do it a little differently than I did my original businesses. Original business, I said I want to open a martial arts school. I went out and opened it, and I refined it over the next 15 years. Painting company, I got ticked off at work one day. It said, I'm just going to go full time. Now, I had been doing a lot of side work, and I already had employees. So the jump was easy.
Yeah.
But it was still scary because I had a good union job that I was leaving and using the savings that Casey and I had for a house to fund it. But it worked out.
Yeah.
But that's the problem sometimes. Everybody wants to have every little piece of the pie, and they want to have, I don't even think it's they want to have every piece of pie. They want to have every answer.
Yeah.
They want to have every answer to every question that you can't answer yet. And I fault some of that with a lot of the gurus online.
Oh, yeah.
Preaching that everything's got to be perfect. You got to do this. You know what? I really wouldn't change anything I did building my businesses because the screw ups taught me more. Like I opened in the third quarter of 2008, November 9th, 2008, I think it was, November 6th or 9th was when my LLC was legitimate. I opened the doors, whatever the first Monday of January was that year. We think it's the 6th. It's been 15 years now. I'm a little fuzzy on which day it was. In one of the worst economies we'd seen since the Great Depression. I didn't know that. I didn't know anything about economy. I didn't read Forbes. I didn't pay attention to any of that crap. I wanted a martial arts school. I finally got the thumbs up to do it, and I went for it. Now, it created some of the hardest, most brokest I had ever been in my life because I had a full-time job then as a union painter. But the lessons I learned, man, I wouldn't trade it.
I hear you. And you know what? I went from a good income,
yes,
every 2 weeks getting a paycheck to living off our savings until things start floating again.
Yes.
And it's scary. You go from, hey, where do you want to go eat tonight? I don't care. Olive Garden, whatever. It doesn't matter to, oh my gosh, we're staying home tonight and we're going to eat ramen noodles again. Okay. Slight exaggeration. But the point is, you're going to make sacrifices, right? But as long as you get up and you get done and you get going, you got to get up and get it done. There's a good book called Eat That Frog. I don't know if you read it.
No, I'll check that one out.
Yeah. It's so basically the premise is basically if you have something that you got to get done today that you just don't want to do, get up and do it now. Get that done. Eat that frog early in the morning. Get it done. Get it over with. Because what happens is, I always say there's a difference between being busy and being productive. When I lay my head down at night, I sit there and go, okay, was it a busy day or a productive day? Some days you're working your butt off doing, and at the end of the day, you're like, you know what? It wasn't productive. It was just busy,
Yes.
But the productive days feel really, really good. So I try to put things in place in my day that are going to make me have at least one or two productive things. So when I lay my head down at night, I can say, you know what? It was a productive day.
No, and that's true. I got to where I didn't even like when people would be like, oh, how's everything going today? Oh, it's been busy. To where I didn't even like saying that because I heard a lot of like really successful people say, yeah, everybody's busy, bro, but were you productive? Did you get shit done?
Yeah.
And that was something that I learned when getting into the contractor space with my own business. A lot of people get on job sites, get busy, work on this. I would hire guys that they would do all this stuff. They couldn't get nothing done.
Yeah.
Whereas I would go on a job site, plan my workout. I might work my tail off, but at the end of the day, I'm like, boom, this is done, this is done, this is done, this is done.
Yeah.
And people do that in life. And it's managing that time and setting that goal. Something I was talking about out there with Jeff on setting the goals, planning what you're going to get done that day. Now, where I fault at is if I make myself like, I used to send over, I stopped doing it because it kind of gives her anxiety. I'd send Casey a list of everything I was doing that day by the hour, by the minute, just so we could coordinate our days. Not really checking in, but just out of respect. Here's where I'm going to be all day. And she would be like, whew, okay, that's a lot. Where my problem would come in is when 8 o'clock hit that night and it was time to lay down and relax because I religiously get my sleep, even though everyone I know is always like, oh, you don't sleep, do you? No, I got a lot of sleep.
Yeah.
If I hadn't hit those, I'd be pissed. I'd be mad. I had to learn to set realistic ones too, to draw that line on being productive and just doing too much or getting it all done in one day. And then Tuesday you're like, what do I do?
Yeah. I mean, so another thing is that a lot of times, I'm actually working on myself here. And one of the things I'm trying to change is, did you get this done? Whatever this is. And the answer I give myself is, no, I haven't had time. No, I scratch that. I haven't made time.
Yes.
Because if it's important enough, you'll make time to get it done. So sometimes I'm just trying to, correct myself and saying I haven't had time.
I try not to use the word, I just did there, try.
Yeah.
I do my best not to use that word. If someone says, hey, what about this? Well, let me try to get you in on Thursday. And I find I'm better about it when I'm texting or emailing because I'll catch it more.
Yeah.
But it was something that my district manager at Jiffy Lube taught me. He called me up. What's our goal today? Well, I'm going to try to. He'd be like, no. We're not trying nothing. This is what we're doing. And that had a lasting effect on me. I ran into him a little while back. I was on a bid and I was like, I just want to tell you. And I gave him like 5 things he taught me. He was like, no way.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, you taught me you could say anything you want to anybody if you say it with a smile. People that listen to this, any of my old friends listen to it. Anybody I haven't, I say old friends, people I ran around with in a while listen to it, they know that was from Kevin Radke. Kevin, that man, when I worked for him, he'd come out in the base. People would have their prize baby. This guy had an Acura in there one day. It was his prize baby. It was everything he meant to him. It was the first time Kevin ever did this in front of me. He walked out. He's like, hey, brought that piece of crap in my shop.
Wow.
And the guy turned around, looked at him, Kevin smiled. He's like, man, I love that color. And immediately a bond was made with the customer. And that's when it registered to me. I was like, damn, you really can do things if you do it with the right body language. There was a lot that people like that have taught me over the years, but being productive was a big one. These are our goals of the day. And Kevin taught me, okay, you've got to sell. So our budget at Jiffy Lube was, I'm probably gonna get these wrong after all these years, like $52 a car. But you would have a monthly budget to hit this many smalls, which is wiper blades, air filters, etc. Larges were your radiator transmission flushes. You had to do so many oil changes, so many engine flush was a big one. It was considered a large. So we break it down. Okay, what's your budget for the month? Divide that by 30. We're open 30 days this month. Even if we were open 31, we divide by 30.
Yep.
Okay, then we'd say, okay, when you're going to work your shop's open for 10 hours. All right, so at noon, what's our goal at noon? And we would set our goal for the day actually as our noon goal. And we would make sure that our early bird, which ran 7 to 10 or 7 to 9, whatever it was back then, they changed it over the years, to actually hit 80, 90% of it. So by the time we hit noon, we'd be like, boom, got our goal for noon. That was actually what the employees might not know for the day. That was our goal for the day. So now everything after noon was just cream.
That's eat that frog.
Yes.
That's the whole thing. I mean, you did it and you didn't even know you were doing it. You know what I mean?
No, exactly. There's so many things like that I look back on that I broke down like that, and it still is how I do things. Like I'll be on a job site and I'll be like, guys, by lunch, we've got to have to this point in house done.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, well, it's 11:30, we're going to lunch. I'm like, no, we're going to lunch 11:45, so we have 15 more minutes to hit this goal. And they're like, well, it's not a really big deal. It's like, no, if we slack, one thing you do is everything you do. Like if we slack on this, we're going to slack on the next thing. But now I know once we hit that goal, whatever we get done after lunch is just a bonus because this is where we need to be today.
Yeah.
In my head, or the way I've projected the job for the week. And it's something that I still live by. And it was something he taught me when he mentored me to be a store manager. I told him years later, I'm like, dude, that stuff had a lasting effect.
Mm-hmm.
I worked at a body shop and had a discussion with the gentleman that owned the body shop. Shout out the Wolfman, Baker. He told me, know your worth. Know what you're worth. Because he had me keep a log as an apprentice of what I learned in the shop. And he's like, your time is worth this. He's like, I'm not degrading you. This is what I pay you. This is what your time's worth. So I'm a body man, speaking for himself, this is what my time is worth. He goes, but now this other guy's a body man that's not as accomplished. His time, know your worth. Is this a job that's worth your time? When doing things. And that has been something that has followed me. And that was, man, I was 20 when I worked for him, so 21 years.
And that's something we need to teach our kids too, right?
Yes.
I mean, because, my son, 16-year-old Samuel, he's going to Pikeling and Tech right now to be a welder,
Awesome.
right? And he wants to be a welder, and he loves the idea, and it's awesome. One thing I've kind of talked to him about, he's not so big a fan. I said, look, become a welder, work for somebody for 2 years, maybe 3, learn the welding, improve your skills there, but learn the business.
Yes.
Then you get a truck and you go have your own business and be a welder.
Mobile welding is amazing.
Mobile welding's amazing. And you set your own time. You set your own pace. I did tell him, I said, look, owning your own business is a pain in the butt sometimes, man. A lot of times, right?
A lot,
It really is.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't go back to the corporate world. I'll work twice as hard as I am right now even to stay away from the corporate world.
Yes.
But I think it's something we need to teach our kids because the younger generation now, I don't know, man. It's a different vibe, man. They just feel like everything's kind of going to happen.
It's beat into everybody's head that they got to go to work, they got to go to college, they have to have a job, they have to work for someone else. Or they have to be a YouTuber, which that's not going to work. But I will say that dealing with a lot of the youth and going a lot of the places I do, there's hope.
Yeah.
It's there. It just takes more people like us giving back and teaching. And anytime I go into these places and teach, I go to, Pike Lincoln's one of them. I actually went out and did, I went out for career day last year. Then I went back and did mock interviews in the conference room behind the office and did some more work with the kids. Actually hired a couple on that summer for apprentices. Maybe it was 2 years ago. But when I go in and talk to those people, we talk about the business behind it too, not just let me hire you to be a painter.
That's it.
When I go up to the high school and work with the construction tech class, I speak to them, Gifford has me speak to them on what I make as a painter and how I built my business and how they can do it too. We're not just telling them to be in the trades. We're telling them how they can do it themselves.
Absolutely.
And that's what they need.
Yeah. I mean, because you know what, if you have good work ethic, and I believe work ethic is instilled in you.
Yes.
I don't think you can teach somebody work ethic, but if you have good work ethic and you understand that you are going to have to do something for a living, you can do it for somebody else or you can do it for yourself. And like I said, I lived in somebody else's cubicle for 23 years, making their dreams come true. Right. So if you're willing to work hard and make your own dreams come true, in my opinion, become an entrepreneur. But
and
it's not for everybody.
But like you said, it's a work ethic. I meet so many all the time that don't get out of bed and don't put in the work, and it's almost like karma, and the aspect of the energy out comes back in. The more you're getting up, hustling, going out, working on building the work comes back.
Yeah.
I did that until it got to a point that I was forced to leave my job because I had. When Obamacare kicked in, our health insurance went through the roof. So I went back to work as a union painter because I had great insurance. Like a lot of people do. They go to work for health insurance.
Absolutely.
I had no interest in leaving that. I was a journeyman painter. I was in the union. I had great health insurance, but I kept telling people I painted to where I had so many bids and so much work that I had to leave. And I remember Casey and we had an apartment in O'Fallon. I was sitting on the counter talking to her, and I said, I hadn't left. I had texted her that I wanted to go on my own. I was like, let's get a logo, let's get it. But I hadn't left my job yet. We were sitting there and she goes, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm getting ready to make the Facebook page and the Instagram account. I said, I don't know if I want to do this. Now I believe I had a website, but I'm not positive on that. Probably didn't have the website yet. She goes, well, what's the problem? I said, I know as soon as I do this, I'm going to have to quit my job.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, if you do, you do. It is what it is. And I was like, okay. I created them, shared them on my personal page, and within 15 minutes, I had 3 messages on Instagram from people I knew. Jeremy and Tammy were 2 of them. Hey, cool, you started your own business. Jeremy had a friend that needed a bid, and Tammy needed me to bid her house. She had just moved out. And then the next message, and the next message, and the next message. And so we set them up. I think we told them we'd get to them like Saturday.
Yeah.
Well, then another one, and another one came in, and another one came in. I was like, man, I can't go Saturday. I might have to go Friday also. Then I had a couple come in. I was like, man, can you come over Thursday? All in a period of like 24 hours to where I went into work and I was like, guys, I think I called in sick that Thursday and I went in Friday because I didn't know what else to do. I went in Friday morning. And I was like, listen, I want to sit down and talk because I got all the bids from Thursday. I had all this work. It was too much to do on Friday, Saturdays. And I went to the boss today, and they took it really bad. So I just walked out. We left. They lost their cool. I was like, I'm not going to listen to this shit. So I left. And I went full time after that. But I remember sitting there going, do I do this or don't I? And it was 18 bids. I got 18 bids. I'll post in both of those in 24 hours. It was insane. And I tell people that, like, if you're putting the work out there, you're putting the energy out there, then you create the tools, the Instagram, the Facebooks, TikTok. I don't like TikTok, but we created one to promote everything now. I haven't gotten work off TikTok yet directly that I know of, but I've connected with people older than me on TikTok, which blew me away. I had someone message me on there the other day. I was in her wedding when I was 4 or 5 years old.
Oh, wow.
And it's been amazing at the people that have actually connected with me on there and what a tool it is. And by having those tools and I follow up on my stuff, I set aside time every day to do it. Around noon and around 4, I hop on, respond to stuff, and I do it again when I get home. Otherwise, if I leave it for 12 hours, it's just way too much.
Yeah.
It's too much to catch up with.
Yeah.
But again, that's something that is, I think you're right. It is something that's instilled with you. My parents did sit still. They got up and they did stuff.
Yeah.
And I do that too.
Yeah, and as a young man, I remember, my mom and dad. My dad was a machinist for McDonnell Douglas before Boeing was a thing, I guess, and so we were a very middle income, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I had to have Levi's jeans. That I had to have. My dad said, "Look, you want Levi's jeans? Go to work." So I bought myself a lawnmower for $20 or something like that, and I started cutting grass. And then those same customers, I shoveled their driveways.
Yep.
So I made sure that they knew that, hey, I also shovel driveways, so give me a call. I had regular customers, and that was my first income. That was my first taste of, this is how capitalism works.
Yes.
And I did. And I bought my Levi's jeans and I wore them with pride. They were mine.
And there's nothing wrong with doing that. It wasn't nothing about your parents being cheap.
No.
It was teaching you that lesson. You want them. I had a student who said he was really into Nike shoes, and I was giving mom and dad trouble. They're like, he earns every dime for those. I was like, really? That is awesome. I'm super proud of him for that. And I didn't tease him about him because I was messing with him at first because he always had some new ones. So then after that, I'd help him spot sales on him. I'd be like, hey, man, I was up at the Nike outlet. They got this pair in your size. You want me to grab them, or you looking right now? He'd be like, no, actually, I'm shooting for this pair right now. But it was teaching them and instilling that it wasn't about the money to mom and dad. It was teaching them to earn it themselves.
100%.
You don't have to provide everything for them. Now, on that same coin, I think at a younger age that teaching children to want nicer things is a good thing too, because it gives them a reason to work. They used to give my dad trouble all the time because I'd go shopping with him and pick out ties and stuff he needed. And I had expensive taste. And my dad used to tell, I remember standing down at Dillard's or Famous, where it was Famous and Bar back then, or down at Dillard's. Those were 2 stores we went to. And him telling him, he goes, well, he's going to have a good job and he's going to have to work really, really hard if he wants to afford this stuff. Because, he bought an Armani suit and he asked me to pick him out a tie, and the guy was giving him crap. I'd be like, oh, you're going to let I think I was probably 10, pick out your tie. And dad goes, I taught him what a good tie looks like. He can do it. And I went over and picked out a tie, and it was like $100 and something tie. And the guy's like, oh, my boy, let's look at some other stuff while you're here.
That's right.
And my dad was laughing. He goes, he knows what to look for. And it taught me that I was going to have to work hard. And I still remember that conversation. I still remember him doing that because we also went in to get my mom a ring at Kriegel Jewelers at the mall.
Oh, yeah.
And my dad goes, go see what diamonds, because we wanted to put a diamond on my mom's wedding band for their 25th. And the guy's like, you're going to let your son pick that out? And I was like, what about this pink one? They're like, hey, attaboy, it's an $18,000. My dad was like, they said it was 18 something. I was like, oh, whatever. My dad's like, no, that's more than our trucks. We just bought an S10 truck from General Motors for like $9,000 or something back then. My dad's like, hey, that's more than the truck we drove here in, boy. We're not getting that. Because they were like, Matt can come shop here anytime, Frank. Just give him your credit card, send him up. We'll take care of him, know?
Yeah.
But it taught me that lesson of valuing money and understanding that if I do want something, I got to work hard for it.
Well, and the flip side of that is, I think a lot of parents, and I'm going to get slack for this, but a lot of parents give their kids everything.
Yes.
And then the kids only can wear, the expensive Nikes and the expensive, and there's a flaw there, I think, too, because honestly, like you said,
it's a fine line.
It is a fine line because, then you get to the kids to the point where they feel like they have to have everything, and not work for anything.
And they don't understand that they've got to work for it, and also they've got to be able to afford it. I may buy a $300 pair of shoes, but I also own one business in general makes $1.4 million a year. I can buy a $300 pair of shoes.
Yeah.
If you make $11 an hour working at fast food, you probably don't need to buy a $300 pair of shoes. You probably need to set that as a goal later on. I want a $200,000 Porsche. I'm not to that level yet. Now, could I do a bunch of stuff and probably trick someone into financing me on it or whatnot and overextend myself? Yes, but I know better because I'm not gonna put my family in that position. I think that's the other thing that's lost too, is they see everybody wearing Yeezys and all this stuff and they think they got to have it too. And it's like, yeah, but that's Kanye wearing it. It's his brand. He makes billions. Like he owns his own bank, guys. Like he can do that. Not everyone's at that level, but teaching those lessons as you do it. If you constantly just give them stuff because they feel they need it or they want it, well, then you're creating that entitlement attitude too, which is so rampant these days with everybody. I don't even think it's just the younger generations. Just in general, people feel that way.
Yeah, I think one of Dave Ramsey's good quotes is, you don't need to buy things you don't need, with money you don't have to impress people you don't like.
Yes.
And people do it all the time.
Yeah.
You know, people do it all the time.
For sure. For sure. I just am blown away with that sometimes at the stuff they do, or because, and this is something I've been guilty of, well, because I worked hard for it. And it's like, well, yeah, but do you really need it though? Like I talked to someone the other day about something. I said, but this is a need and a want. Again, another conversation I had with someone that was very wealthy, and we were discussing things I wanted to do at the Taekwondo school. And he explained to me that the new mats that I said I really, really needed, he goes, there's nothing wrong with the mats in your dojo. That's a want. And he broke that down for me. We were at breakfast at Waffle House in Wentzville, 2010-ish. Mm-hmm. I still remember him breaking down needs and wants, and I'm still in my head. I'm like, man, I want this, or I need this, and then I'll be like, no, really, I want it. I don't really need it. And I've had to learn that because as the painting business grew and the money was coming in, I could buy more wants than there were needs, and I got myself in trouble with it. Yeah. So learning that, but this has been great, man. I definitely want to have you on again to keep this conversation going. Yeah. I appreciate you coming in today. This was really cool. It's been
awesome, man.
This was great. This was a great time. Learned a lot, and I hope everybody watching learned a lot. Again, thank you for tuning in to the Lincoln County podcast. Make sure to check out Ron's page, Show Me Custom Gifts. Give the podcast page a like and a share, and we will catch you guys next time. Thank you to our sponsors, K. Flynn Insurance, elect Bruce Becker for the Lincoln County Fire Board, and the Crafty Midwestern Mommy for their continued support of the Lincoln County podcast.